All right, I'm ready when you are.
Thank you. I'm ready. My name is Florence. I'm 94 years old. And last Wednesday, I was standing in my son's kitchen, holding a box of crackers and reading the ingredients out loud because I wanted him to hear it. Chester says to me, "Mom, you're not a nutritionist." And I said, "I'm a 90-year-old widow who already buried her husband, and I think that's credentials enough." You look at a box that says 0 sugar, and you think everything's fine. It's printed nice and big right on the front, and it settles you down. I thought the same thing for 40 years. I was an educated woman. I read labels. I thought I was doing everything right. Turns out, I was feeding both of us something that doesn't even have an honest name on the package. Raymond wasn't sick. That's what I need you to understand before I go any further. He didn't complain about his health, didn't go to the doctor every week, wasn't one of those men who makes a tragedy out of a head cold. He worked in the garden until he was 55, drove his own car until the very end, and he looked fine from the outside. That's what I understand now, from the outside. But something had been going wrong inside for a very long time, and neither one of us knew it. I was 68 years old when I walked into the bedroom one morning and called his name, and he didn't answer. I thought at first he was sleeping hard. He always slept on his right side, facing the wall. I touched his shoulder, and I knew in that same second. The doctors said his heart gave out. His liver was worn down. Something had been pressing on everything important inside him for years, and we never saw it from the outside. He was 68 years old. He never smoked, never drank, and every single night before bed, he ate crackers with milk. Crackers before bed, every single night, for 40 years. I put his dish away that same day and set it on the top shelf. I didn't throw out the box. A week later, I bought a new one. Didn't think about it. Just went to the store and reached for what I always reached for, like my hand remembered before my brain did. Grief pulls you toward the familiar, because the chaos inside is too big, and something has to stay the same. At night, I'd sit alone at the kitchen table, take a cracker out of the sleeve, and think about him. It was the only thing I could do for him. Sit where he sat, eat what he ate. That's a silly thing, I know. But grief doesn't work sensibly, and you'll understand that if you haven't already. You think I'm exaggerating? I'm not. 24 years I opened that box every evening and never asked a single question. And you know what's the bitterest part? I was completely sure I felt fine for my age. My knees hurt. Well, I was in my 80s. Of course they hurt. That's just how it is. Foggy in the mornings. I wasn't sleeping well. That happens with age. Everyone says so. By 6 in the evening, I couldn't do much of anything. Just regular old tiredness. What else would it be? You're probably telling yourself the same thing right now. I'm just this age. It's just getting older. I said that word like a spell, and it made all the questions disappear. One Christmas, Chester came to visit, looked at me and said, "Mom, you've lost weight, but you look kind of puffy." I laughed and said, "Chester, I'm 89. I don't have another option." He didn't laugh. He looked at me the way he used to when he was little, when he was scared of something but didn't know how to say it. And my memory started slipping. Not catastrophically at first. Names, dates, words just dropping out of sentences halfway through. I thought, well, fair enough. I'm 90. That's honest. But sometimes I'd wake up at night and couldn't remember what year it was, and that scared me in a real way. I just never said it out loud. Not to Chester, not to anyone. My stomach bothered me too. Always a little bloated, and I thought, digestion, age, nothing to do about it. The doctor would explain that one later. But that was later. Chester dragged me to the doctor. There's no other way to put it. I was 92, and I resisted the way I resist things. Chester, I've lived 92 years without this blood work. He said, that's exactly why, Mom. Just like that, one quiet sentence. Chester doesn't argue long. He says one exact thing and you know you've lost. The doctor was young, spoke slowly like I was hard of hearing. I told him right away, you don't need to do that. I'm not deaf, I'm just old. He smiled and got down to it. He asked what I ate. I told him. He asked about the crackers, like he already knew. And then he said the sentence I still hear. He said, Florence, what you eat every night, your body doesn't see it as a cracker. It sees it as sugar, and it's been seeing it that way for a very long time. I looked at him and didn't say anything. I just sat there thinking about Raymond. The doctor kept going. I didn't follow all of it, honestly. He said there's a powder in those crackers that looks like flour, but inside your body it breaks down into sugar faster than actual sugar, faster than if you ate pure sugar off a spoon. I said, but it says 0 sugar right on the box. He said, it says 0 because it isn't technically sugar under the law, but your body doesn't read the law, Florence. Something heavy settled in me. Not pain exactly, just weight. He went on. This powder builds up as fat around your internal organs. A person looks fine from the outside, but the heart and the liver are working under constant pressure, like someone's laying a brick on them every single day. Raymond looked fine from the outside. I remembered that right there in the office. From the outside. And the doctor said that when they make this powder, they treat it with bleach, the same chlorine they regulate in drinking water as a poison. But in food, it's perfectly fine, apparently. Chester got home and read the ingredients out loud from a box. Modified food starch, cornstarch, maltodextrin. Nice words. None of them look anything like the word sugar, which is exactly why they write them that way. His crackers every night, then mine. 40 years straight, and I never once read what it said in the small print. I left that office, and for 3 days I didn't open a single cabinet in my kitchen without reading the label first. Chester came over that weekend and found me at the table with 3 different packages of crackers, a notepad, and my reading glasses. He said, Mom, what's happening? I said, learning to read all over again. The first week without crackers, I was angry. Not at the food, at myself. Because I started understanding that it wasn't just the cracker box. It was in the bread, in the cereal I bought as healthy, in the chips Chester brought on holidays. Nearly every box, nearly every bag, the same thing, just written differently, fancier, modified, natural, organic, but the same thing inside. And always 0 sugar, always pretty words. I walked around that kitchen thinking about how many years I'd done this, how many years he'd done it, and nobody told us. I'm not saying the crackers killed him. I don't have the right to say that with any certainty, but they didn't help him, not for a single one of those 40 years. A month later, Chester was the first one to notice something had changed. He called on Sunday, like always, and suddenly said, "Mom, you sound different." I said, "Different how?" He said, "Faster, like you woke up." I laughed, hung up the phone, and thought, he's right. My mornings were different. Not clear like when I was young. Don't give me more credit than I deserve. Just cleaner. Hard to explain. Like something stopped getting in the way, and I hadn't known it was there. My joints changed, too, and that surprised me more than anything. The knees weren't as bad, not gone, but one day I walked up the stairs at Chester's house to the second floor and didn't stop in the middle. He was standing at the bottom with this look on his face, and I laughed out loud from the top step. "Chester, were you scared?" He said, "A little bit, yeah." We stood there laughing on that staircase, and I can't remember the last time we laughed like that together. You're laughing too, maybe, at the staircase story, I understand that. But when you're 92, a staircase isn't just a staircase. The bloating went away too. That one I didn't see coming, and I only noticed by accident one morning when I was buttoning my blouse and thought, these used to be hard to close. It just disappeared over a few weeks, like it was never there, and I realized I'd lived with it so long I'd stopped counting it as a problem. I thought about Raymond every day. What if someone had told us this sooner? What if I'd read the ingredients myself? What if? It's pointless. I know it's pointless, but your mind goes around that loop whether you want it to or not. In October, I had a bad day. Just a day I remember every year. Not an anniversary, not a birthday, just a day. Chester couldn't come, the weather was gray, and I was sitting alone in the kitchen at 7 in the evening, staring out the window. I stood up, opened the cabinet, and there was a box, one I must have grabbed at the store without thinking, out of old habit. I ate them standing right there at the cabinet, half the box. My stomach hurt that night. My knees reminded me of themselves by morning, like something had come back to its old place and was glad to be home. My head was heavy, the way it used to be, before all of this. I got up at 6 and walked into the kitchen, and there was his photograph. It's been on the refrigerator for 26 years. Raymond looking slightly to the side, like he spotted something just out of frame. I stood there looking at him and thought, all right, enough. Crackers before bed, every single night, and I went back to them that night, and nothing good came of it. I threw out what was left in the box, drank a glass of water, and texted Chester. Rough night, moving on. He called 5 minutes later. That's my son. Called 5 minutes later at 7 in the morning. My job isn't to be perfect. I figured that out at 92. A little late, but better late than nothing. My job is to keep coming back. I'm 94 years old. I sit on the porch in the mornings with my coffee when the weather allows, and there isn't a single box in my house with that powder in it. Chester checks every time he comes over. I tell him, Chester, don't check. I told you. He says, I know, Mom. Just checking. You know what still makes me angry? Not that I didn't know sooner. This. The ingredients were printed on every single one of those boxes. Small print, but it was there. Modified food starch, cornstarch, maltodextrin. All of it, right there. Nobody just explained what it meant. Nobody told me that your body turns it into sugar faster than sugar itself. Nobody said it was pressing on your heart and liver from the inside while you looked perfectly fine from the outside. You're going to walk into your kitchen right now and pick up something from the shelf, bread, crackers, cereal, chips, and you're going to look at the ingredients. Not the line that says 0 sugar, the actual ingredients. Look for these words: modified food starch, maltodextrin, cornstarch. If you see even one of them, you're holding exactly what I've been talking about. Just look. It takes 1 minute. I'm not planning to live forever, that's understood. But I want to live what's left of it with a clear head, with knees that listen to me at least half the time, and with this quiet I feel every morning on that porch, with my coffee, while everything is still. 40 years of crackers before bed, every single night, and not once did I think to ask what was inside. There isn't one in my house now. Raymond had 68 years. You still have time. He didn't. That's all I wanted to say.